Hey everyone, and welcome to the Delta+Juliet show, where healing meets humor and a good drink.
And we're your hosts, Delta and Juliet, and we're here to share stories about the beautiful, messy journey of mental health and healing. Ours, our guests, and maybe even yours someday.
This show is all about building a community. We like to call it the crew, because nobody should have to navigate life's storms alone. So grab your drink and join us.
And whether that's with a cocktail in hand, or a cup of tea, or just a sense of curiosity, and remember, we believe that adventure is healing. So you'll hear us talk about overlanding, nature, and lessons we've learned along the way.
We also like to keep things real around here. That means tough topics, honest conversation, and maybe a few curse words. Definitely a few curse words. So consider this your heads up.
Some episodes might not be suitable for kids, so pop in your headphones if little ears are nearby. Now let's dive in and get started.
And we're going. I don't know why these don't clink very well.
I know, they're supposed to be glass.
Maybe it's because they're filled? I don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe it's a
Maybe
type
they're
of glass.
Glass.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
I hope that's all it is and not like some weird plastic thingy.
Yeah, hopefully. It'll chooch.
It'll wet your whistle.
Yep.
So,
Holy shit.
yeah. It's been a long time.
A long fucking time. A lot of life. Chaos. Changes. Technical difficulties.
Shit ton of changes.
Mm-hmm.
I hate changes, and it was all changes. That was wet.
But that's okay. We're back. We've got some pretty cool stories to put out.
Yeah.
Some cool content that we're really excited about. Today,
We're announcing probably the biggest change of our life. You know, besides getting married and joining the military.
oh yeah, surprise, we're coming out of the closet.
We're leaving. We left the military.
Yeah.
On good terms.
yeah.
It was not like a I mean, part of it was I can't wait to get the fuck out of here, but it was not on sour terms. We love our time in the military. It did great things for us, but it also did very terrible things to us.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a really unique experience of being married and being mill to mill.
Yes, which is military married to military. Although there was a kink
Yes.
to everyone else, not me. I loved the kink
Oh my god.
because I was married to an officer,
And I was married.
to an underachiever.
Well, you said it, not me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, you're going to give me so much shit for being an officer and my time as an officer and my experience, so I figured I slip one out. That's what I said, I know.
I'm gonna let you refer. No, I'm not gonna let you rephrase that. I like the slip one out.
Yeah.
Just hope it doesn't smell. So,
Wait,
oh, what are we drinking?
yeah,
Totally forgot. It's been a long time.
I know.
Like once I got out of the military, I just went straight slug. Like I dependopotamused it immediately. Cause you were in for about a month longer than I was. Well,
Well, I had terminal leave for a
Yeah.
month, and then I jumped straight into work. So I didn't have a whole lot of downtime, but you sure did.
I did, and I meant to do so much with it. I really did have good intentions, but I always underestimate the amount of fuckery that ADHD puts into my life. And just laziness.
It
Excuse me.
happens. I'm sure it happens. It happens to a lot of people.
We still didn't say what we were drinking.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Sparkling water. We got a what is it called? A soda
Drink.
stream.
Soda stream. Yeah.
Soda stream. So we are carbonating everything. Uh, a lot of carbonated stuff messes with me, like if it's mass produced. But for some reason, maybe it's the amount that I can of CO2 I can put in there. But this stuff actually I like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, so we just figured we're trying to cut back on alcohol and just kind of not that we were drinking that much anyways.
No, we drank
just
the show and we drank casually
with friends,
when we went out.
holiday
Maybe once or
meals.
twice a month.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess really we're not doing
It's
bad.
not we're cutting out drinking, we're cutting out sugar.
Yeah.
Or at least I am, and I don't know about you, you don't really need it.
I mean, I'm still trying to stay healthy though.
Sure. I need to lose a few to 30 pounds, 40, maybe 50.
So, anyways, yeah, we're just drinking homemade sparkling water, which is actually really good. I need to get some like flavoring type stuff.
Yeah, and if you notice, another change is you can see us now. Like, if you've been listening the whole time, which I think is 2 of you, you can see us now on YouTube. But we are still dealing with a few technical difficulties, trying to figure out a few bugs with our system, because we don't have producers, we don't have a big team to help do this, so we had to find something we could automate.
Yeah, and I work a full-time job, and Delta is a student.
And a lazy bum. So it took me forever to figure this out. Which is part of why I'm doing the whole 90-day, I guess, jump start, I'm going to call it. I'm calling it Project Discipline, because I like to name things. But I just want to be able to insert discipline into my life in the places that I need it. And also just set up daily routines, because routines help me so much with anxiety. And with dealing with the ADHD stuff. Because while it doesn't absolutely wreck my life by any means, it does not set me up for success. So I have to put things in place to set myself up instead of, just for things that are kind of normal for everybody else. I need to set things in place so that I can accomplish those everyday goals, like remembering to call somebody, or daily schedules, or cleaning, or stuff like that. It's just something I've learned I need to do. So I'm trying to get in the habit of doing that over 90 days. And I'm adding a different discipline every 3 weeks. Maybe every week if it starts going well. And
Whoa, don't get too ambitious.
if it starts going well.
Okay, all right, baby steps.
Yes. That doesn't mean you can't stand up quickly.
That's true. That's true.
Because I've done this before and it helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life happened and I lost a lot of habits.
Yeah.
Disciplines.
It happens. I'm also doing my own 90-day journey, just more of drinking more water, getting to bed earlier, and reading some stuff, and being better about
Right up on it.
oh, you want me to lick the microphone?
Pretty much.
But yeah, just essentially just drinking water, getting to bed before, it gets too late, kind of setting the tone, and getting some actual reading a book in. So.
I don't read.
Yeah. But anyways. So today we're just gonna sort of touch on some things that we didn't want to talk about before that will hopefully make more sense about our story, our journey together.
Yeah, because because of, the nature of what our job was, we'll never really, no one should really disclose what they do. At least I think so, but I don't know. We just don't feel comfortable doing that, so we're just going to kind of stick to, we were in the military. Now we're not. Okay, cool. The end. But we're actually finally going to be able to start opening up about different things that happen throughout our career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good and bad. Terrible leadership, good leadership, mental health nightmares, and just kind of how we vibed.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so if you guys have heard some of our earlier episodes, we went through kind of like our whole mental health journey. I had mentioned when we had our first suicide scare with you, Delta.
That'd be me.
um, I was actually, so let me back up a little bit. We got to our first duty station together. I was the LT, brand new, got there, and already my leadership was asking me to deploy.
Let's start from the beginning. Beginning.
Oh, okay. All right.
That way the story makes sense.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
So we got married before we got in the military because we knew it would be a bit of a thing for an officer to marry enlisted because they don't like that happening. So we got married beforehand so that we can fill out the paperwork to say you are allowed to be married. How wild is that? Not only does the state and the government and God have to tell you, okay, you're married, but once you join the military, you have to have paperwork, at least for officer to enlisted, saying you're allowed to be married. I don't know what they would have done if if somebody decided no.
No,
Is that even a thing?
I don't know if they do this with all officer to enlisted like marriages, but I remember when we got to our training base that we had to get a memo signed by I think the base commander.
Yes. So I walk into my sergeant's office, and they're used to like 18-year-olds, no hair on their balls, still waiting for their nipples to pop out, whatever the girl version is. I don't know.
I mean, women do have nipples, so.
Well, I mean, sure, but maybe not before puberty. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
They might be like lizard people. I'm not sure. But I was 30 during basic training and during training. And for those of you who know all the different terms of different branches and stuff, by the way we're talking, you know exactly what branch we were in, which we were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Chair Force. I mean, sticking to our guns, or lack thereof. But she's used, Sergeant, she told me that she's used to, 18-year-olds not really knowing what to do, and then she's setting up all this paperwork. She's telling me to do these different briefings of here's how you, survive financially, here's how you save money, here's how you... They literally cater to the lowest common denominator, which is good for a lot of people. And even though it's annoying maybe to some people who have lived some life already, it's for people who have not experienced life yet. They may be just out of mommy and daddy's basement and just figuring out that you can get your hand off your dick and walk around the world. You don't have to stay in your dark room. But once I told her, like, yeah, I'm 30, we've been married for a year. She's like, oh, you don't need any of this. Here, I'll send this up. It'll get signed. Come back down. But it took a year for this paperwork to come through. Oh, wait, no. Oh, that was the joint spouse. Okay, that was different. But joint spouse lets them know that you want to go to the same base. You don't want to be separated.
And I should note for some people are probably going to yell at us that it's join spouse, but honestly, it sounds better when you say joint spouse. So figured I'd throw that out there.
You guys do it your way, I'll do it my way.
Yeah,
I don't mind being wrong.
It sounds better when you say joint spouse. In fact, everyone that I know calls it joint spouse, not joint spouse.
What Karen complained to you about that?
Oh, just people on Reddit.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Where was I? Oh, so joint spouse. It lets them know that you want to be put together instead of being separated. Because otherwise, they don't care. They'll send each spouse a different place, unless you have that paperwork. And so I was asking everyone. since day one, how does this work? Because this is the last thing we want, and we were told by everyone we knew who had been prior service or currently in, don't go anywhere until you get that joint spouse form. And the, I guess, HR people, or whatever you want to call it, MPF, I don't know what they're...
The military personal flight.
Yeah, they handle logistics for everyone.
Yeah,
They
paperwork.
were just like, you know what, grow up, be okay being separated, and get the fuck out of my base. So I had to go find somebody called a first sergeant, who in the Air Force is actually helpful.
Supposed to be helpful.
Yes. This one was.
Yeah.
He marched me over to this lady and shut her door and yelled at her. And I, as a A1C, had a master sergeant come out and apologize to me. And 2 days later, we had joint spouse. Like, they just weren't doing it.
Yeah, and I remember having to show up at MPF with you a couple times to check in, because, like, I was towards the end of my, I think, training, and you were...
Well, you were kind of in the middle of yours.
Yeah, I was kind of...
I was done.
You were done.
Yeah, but my sergeants, thankfully, they were good sergeants.
Yeah, credit to them.
And they told me, look, we're extending your orders here. We're going to delay your departure to your next base. You're not leaving until we see that form, until my master sergeant over my training flight said, you're not leaving until I have that form in my hand. And you handed it to me.
Yeah, and after a couple times of having to go to MPF together, getting some strange looks, but whatever, fuck off, we finally got it.
Yeah, so that was my first lesson in the military, is no one cares.
But I just want to say, I still have the memo from the base commander.
We should bring that.
I know, we should. And just kind of like black out all the pertinent information. But it's so funny. Like, it's basically saying that the base commander permits us to be together.
And you being married.
Yeah, continue being married. It's like, okay, dude. Like,
yeah,
we're legally married. What are you going to do?
Seriously.
It's kind of funny. So, but yeah, we get our orders, the same orders, to the same base, and 2 different wings, 2 different squadrons.
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to actually we both kind of went in for different jobs, but then slowly changed our minds to this, which thankfully worked out that way. I was devastated when I didn't get my first job, my first career path, because I wanted to be pararescue, because I'd been an EMT, and I wanted the hardest thing you could get.
Yeah.
And I wanted to jump out of planes and shoot things.
And I made sacrifices to accommodate your separation anxiety. So, but ultimately, it was a blessing.
That sounds
with
like
what?
a shot.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, it's the truth, though.
It is.
It is the
but
truth.
You said it you
Sorry.
got very stoic
No.
and angry when you said that.
We both went in not getting what we wanted.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
We ended up actually kind of as close as officer enlisted can, having the same job.
yeah, it was really cool.
It was really cool.
Very cool.
We were only a fart.
A fart.
We were only apart for maybe 6 months out of our entire career. Maybe. At the least 4 months.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun time. So, we get to Virginia, and as soon as I get there, people are asking me if I want to deploy. And obviously, I do want to deploy, but Delta, I knew you had some reservations. Like, you were just starting to see a counselor about depression and whatnot, and you were put on night shift, and it was kind of a shithole.
We had no idea at this point the extent of
Yeah.
everything going on in my head. Like, I had told you about, the violent assault, but I don't think it ever really clicked that was a big deal. At least it didn't. I don't know. From the way that we reacted to it, Didn't seem like a big deal until they said you were deploying.
Yeah, and I think when you were on.
I'm trying not to breathe into the microphone, so I'm
Oh.
like holding my breath until I move.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out this whole
Yeah,
setup.
can't tell if these things are super sensitive
I don't. Yeah,
or not sensitive enough, but
I don't know.
it's either you have to be way back here or you basically have to be like just gobbling this thing.
Yeah, when you got put on night shift, like that's when things got bad, because you were a person that needs sunlight.
Yeah, we knew I had I'm one of those people that has seasonal depression. So when clouds come out and it gets cold and you don't get nearly enough vitamin D, especially doing what we did, never seeing the light of day, even in the day, it had an effect. And also I had, like, right off the bat after training, I had terrible leadership.
That was another major factor in your, oh, I don't know, like the lack of resilience that you had, which I know is such an Air Force term.
All they talk about resilience.
But I mean, it's true though. Like there's a lot of things that contribute to whether or not you have good resiliency or not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
Apparently my entire life I had not had apparently I had good endurance mentally, but not good resiliency. I'd never been taught what it was or learned it or whatever, but
yeah, so it was a lot of things kind of crashing. It was like the perfect storm, the perfect shit storm. And I kept putting off deployments, and I said no. These were all volunteer deployments. But then this last one that I got asked, it was one of those things where my captain pulled me aside and he's like, "Hey, this band is coming up and you're in it. So it looks better for you if you just go ahead and volunteer." And I'm like, okay, thinking like, well, it's going to happen anyway, so I might as well say yes. Because one, like, it'll look better for me. Two, and I wanted to go. Like, I've always wanted to go on a deployment.
yeah, I have too, but one, I never got the chance. My career field doesn't get that chance really. And then there's this whole, especially with most of the face of the military and social media being spec ops guys or rangers or whatever. If you don't deploy, you're not really in the military.
Yeah.
We kind of bought into it first.
Absolutely. And even I felt it. I'm like, if I don't deploy at least once in my career, I don't it will not have felt that I was actually in the military, which
In fact,
now it's
yeah, one time during one of my freakouts, you straight up told me if I don't get to deploy, I forgot what you said, but like I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself or you if I don't get that experience.
yeah, and that's
that was the peak of me just screaming and no one listening.
yeah, and it was, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't understand it. I'm like,
You also, like, a lot of people, especially for people like me who are rather keep everything closer to the chest than just because I eventually said I need help, but even that didn't really seem to get attention. It's
no.
like, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, and no one was, not even really, not to your fault, but not even you were really listening. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Well, I thought
especially in men, it comes out like that of, well, especially if they end up going through and dying from suicide. Everyone says, "Oh, well, I can't believe no one knew. Like all the warning signs were there. I was like, well, if you look at it, they're only warning signs after they're gone because you knew it happened. A lot of it was just them either trying to hide it or quietly ask for help to not be a distraction or to save embarrassment or to, not get in the way, because that's a big thing in the military is shut up and color.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Marine, then just cramps.
And it seemed like it was a normal response to no spouse wants their significant other to be apart from them for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
So I interpret it as this is normal. You're still getting situated with your counselor and your meds. You've got friends. It'll be fine.
And there, at least from my point of view, there was at least some willful ignorement of it because you don't want that to be happening. Nobody does. And also, it's like, you wanted to go. And I don't blame you. I would want to go too.
Yeah, so...
But, I mean, my career field had the opportunity to apply for Ranger School. And I did. Or I tried to get my command to help me do it, but they just said, no. No, you're here. You get to be here. We don't care about your career, except for right here.
And that's got to be so demoralizing.
Which I got other places, and they were like, what do you mean they said that? Like, of course we're going to help you with your career. And all this stuff, but it was just bad leadership.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that your military career is shaped by the leadership, good or bad, or indifferent, all of the above.
My military career is basically the movie trailer for bad leadership.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So when I was slotted to deploy, I was going through the training and preparation process. And I remember I did not get hardly any sleep the night before my what do you call it? The firing, the qualification. Oh, I forget the word for it.
Seaburn stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. So I actually failed. Fuck Berettas. Berettas fucking suck. Let's just putting that out there. Berettas fucking suck. And I actually failed because, like, honestly, like, I was straight up distracted. I was worried, but I still was like, I'm still gonna follow through and whatnot. So I actually failed the firing portion, and I
have to take it again, or they're just like, well,
I was actually rescheduled to take it again, but I think it was either that day or the next day that I came home to you like bleeding and like in a mental breakdown.
Yeah, I'd cut myself really bad that day.
Yeah, and that was like, holy shit, that was a wake up call.
Yeah.
So I called my first sergeant, called your first sergeant, drove you to a psych hospital. It was crazy. Well, don't be embarrassed. Like,
no, I mean, if you need it, you need it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just I don't know, that day in my head is like a surreal dream. Like, I don't remember that day at all, except for like bits and pieces of like fuzziness. But I remember very specifically that just kind of blood everywhere ish. And you freaking out and me just screaming, no, leave me alone, just let me die.
Yeah, because like you had told me, I don't know if I'm going to be here when you come back. No, you actually said I won't be here when you come back.
Yeah.
And that's what really scared me. And that sparked a whole process.
Which I've talked a lot about today about my terrible leadership, but I have seen amazing leadership in a lot of your leadership, except for that one squadron. But
yeah,
and then
can't all be good.
My most recent leadership, I will never forget that guy. He was amazing. I love that man. I would legitimately follow that man into a burning fire.
Yeah, there are some good dudes, and and bad dudes, unfortunately. Both men and women that. And here's the thing. I think what's frustrating about the current culture of the military, they're focusing on diversity. But no one talks about it doesn't matter what you look like, who you fuck. What matters is
what you fuck with.
Or what you fuck with. Yeah, that's totally true. That's totally true. But no one fucking talks about the character of people.
Yeah, character is gone, which in a warfighter, you need character.
You need good character.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good point.
And there's no, at least on the Air Force side.
And not to say that anybody who would, first of all, get this little rant out of the way. Anybody who's hired for diversity in a job of necessity is a liability.
Agreed.
You should only be hired in a job of necessity and danger if you fit the bill and you can make the cut.
Yeah.
Even if that means I didn't fit the bill. At least, as far as eyesight or whatever goes, I didn't fit the bill. And that sucks for me, but okay.
Well, you didn't fit the bill because of incompetence of...
Well, MEPS is notoriously...
They deemed you colorblind, and you were not colorblind.
No, I got that fixed at my first base.
Yeah.
I am no longer colorblind according to the military.
Yeah.
By that time, we were together.
Yeah.
It would have been a 2
But honestly, I think it was a God thing. I think God was pulling the strings, and he had a plan, and there's a reason for all this.
I honestly think if I wasn't married, I would have made it. That door would have been opened. Of course, I would have been in the Army, but, Rangers. I think I would have been able to do that, but I'm not saying I wish I wasn't married when I went in. I'm just saying that it's a different life path.
Well, to be fair, for you, when you get attached to someone...
That's what I'm saying, for me.
Yeah.
Like, if we had never met, I would have gone into the Army.
Yeah.
And I think that because we met, God closed that door because he knew what was coming.
Right.
I don't think that door would have been closed if we had not married, because I wouldn't have that attachment.
Yeah, exactly.
Issues probably would have come up later. Probably. But I wouldn't have the attachment disorder, which is apparently insanely strong in me. The attachment disorder is strong in this one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that was what sparked this whole idea for Delta+Juliet.
Yeah.
And we wanted to try to be transparent as much as we can be safely transparent. And just share our stories and our journey, because honestly, I know that the Air Force is still trying to fight. They say like mental health and seeking mental health is no longer a stigma, but it still is.
Oh, 100%. And they keep it that way. I truly believe that mental health and suicide is the war that the military is choosing to lose.
I agree. And I think one of the biggest factors, I was about to say this earlier and then I kind of forgot or got distracted or whatever, but when it comes to leadership, at least on the Air Force side, there is no mechanism for subordinates, for troops to rate on their, formally rate on their supervisors and their officers. If we had that, and I know people would abuse it, but I think it would be a much better system, much better process. And I think bad supervisors would be more likely to be held accountable because it's actually in their paperwork.
Oh yeah, my very last supervisor was the worst. I got decent ratings. I got, decent everything, but it was never said that I lived up to the potential that I was actually performing at. And then I got denied a few things because I happen to be a straight white male. She basically straight up told me that. in a very, Air Force non-sarkable vernacular.
Are you talking about your last supervisor here?
That's what I just said.
Oh.
My very last supervisor.
Oh, your very last. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to that part.
Is that why you were just staring at me blankly?
I don't know.
You were just staring at me for a good 6 seconds.
My mind was elsewhere. Let's go back to your first. Was he your first flight commander?
She.
No, Captain. I don't care what you do.
No. He was. No, he was my first in that squadron.
Oh, okay.
He was my first in my second squadron.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You had a weird situation. Yeah. Tell me about that captain and that flight commander.
That guy. Part of the problem, I can't speak to any other branch, but like the Air Force is so. A lot of people in it describe it as basically office work in camo. Like, the idea of warfighter is lost on a lot of Air Force members because a lot of them are so far removed from it. I mean, we're air power and support. So it's... You don't get the same... at least I don't think you get the same spirit in a lot of people.
Yeah, especially in the type of career fields that we were in.
Yeah, and our career field attracts a lot of narcissists. A lot of people will call them, type A, alpha, whatever people. Yeah, it's... There are, quote-unquote, beta males out there I've met that would just absolutely fuck up most people. Because they present as quiet and reserved.
Yeah.
But they basically know how to unzip your body and take out your bones.
I have an issue with the whole alpha, beta, meta. Like, why are we not talking about... It's never... And that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't talk about people's character and how they treat others. Because that says a whole lot about you as a person.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy actually told our flight one time he was an alpha male.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember this story.
That's all it was in a flight. He's like, yeah, we just gotta get this. I'm an alpha male. I gotta get the, or maybe he's an alpha personality or whatever he said, but he has to get the goal. So we have to help him achieve that goal. And we're like, okay, how about fuck off? But what I was going with, the Air Force not, anymore really maybe comprehending or understanding the warfighter mentality or whatever you want to call it, is the biggest fallback to that is they don't care if it's bad leadership. Leadership is leadership. And they don't see it as, well, this, in combat, bad leadership is going to get somebody killed. In anywhere near theater, that's going to fuck up a lot of people's days. But back here, it's just, well, we can move them. So, sorry if I'm breathing weird. For some reason, my brain can't get over don't breathe into the mic. So when somebody does something terrible, and they, like an enlisted member would have been removed from the Air Force immediately, they get promoted laterally just to get them away from that situation. And then you hear about them later on fucking up more people's lives. And this guy, it was about probably 2 weeks after I came back from the whole suicide psych ward scare. And I knew that it was a lot of my current job that was, and the leadership that was kind of, maybe not, they weren't, making the whole thing worse, but it wasn't helping. And so I asked for a PCA, which is or permanent change of.
I think the A is like assignment or something, but essentially you change wings, you change squadrons.
Yeah, you get shifted around to a different position to see if either you work better there, or you don't die there, or it's happened before. And I requested to my, you have to go through a chain of command. There's no other way. And so I requested to the very flight chain that was the problem that I would like to do this, and I couldn't go around it, which is another weird setup. But I get pulled in. First of all, it's ignored for months, and then finally, when I confront with my supervisor, who he was amazing. He was one of the best supervisors. He was the best supervisor I ever had. I need to call him. But anyways, step into this guy's office and say, "Hey, Captain So-and-so, I'm just wondering where that PCA is going." He's like, "What PCA? I haven't heard about it." "We've told you about it, like face to face. How have you not heard about this?" And so my supervisor, who was a tech sergeant at the time, talking with the captain, and then I'm just standing there, and then finally the captain looks at me and says, "I don't care how you do it, stop being my problem, or a problem." And this is about a month after I come back from basically a suicide attempt. And they promote the guy after I filed an official complaint. Actually, our entire
Yeah.
our entire flight had filed complaints about this guy, and they promoted him. They gave him an award so that he could go to a different place.
Yeah, and what's frustrating was when you asked your first sergeant, who was like a piece of shit,
Oh yeah, I asked him.
gave you like
Why
two answers.
is he getting this award? And his first answer was, "Well, we don't have another. What are the CGO, company grade officer?"
Well, I remember you telling me that they were like, "Oh, he was like the only senior CGO," and I'm like, "Senior CGO?"
That's what I was about to get at. Is
Yeah.
we don't have another CGO to give this award to. He's our only one. I was like, well, "What about the lieutenants?" He said, "Well, those are junior CGOs. They don't get these awards." And in my head, I should have said something, but in my head, I was thinking, my wife is a lieutenant. There's no such thing as a junior CGO.
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, not for award wise.
Yeah.
Like you could say like, "Hey, that's a junior CGO," to imply like, oh,
I
that's.
wish you would have told me that beforehand. But
Well, not for awards though, because awards are CGO, which is lieutenant through captain.
Well, anyways.
Yeah.
Lie number one, and I can't remember what the second one was. Do you remember?
Oh, it was the only way that they could get rid of him.
Oh yeah, That's, and I
To
was
the
like,
wing.
What about firing or court martial or something? No, court martial is extreme, but reprimand or demotion. Because I know if a sergeant had done that, they would be so fucked.
Well, okay. There's more to this captain. This captain was not only a piece of shit to you, Delta. He stopped a prior LT from promoting to captain.
Oh yeah, because he didn't like his religious beliefs, which is illegal, but through the UCMJ, which is the law, the code of conduct and law that we follow in the military. It's basically federal law for us.
Yeah. So this flight commander recommended to the squadron commander that
the squadron commander was dumb enough to believe him.
Yeah.
Instead of doing, and somehow they kept this poor lieutenant under investigation for basically
years
for something that someone had complained about that was kind of not their. It was a religious preference thing.
It ended up being a nothing burger,
Yeah,
you know.
maybe he overstepped in her personal boundaries of just talking about his faith, but for some reason the squadron commander saw fit to launch an entire investigation.
Yeah, and it like the whole thing was so fucked up. And I remember towards the tail end of like your time in the flight, or I guess his time in the flight, both the flight commander and his flight chief, which is someone's like secondhand who is an enlisted person, had to be sent to a what was it, emotional intelligence training,
Yeah, I was.
mandatory.
Yeah, in fact, they had the chaplain come in and tell our flight that not to worry. They've sent them to an emotional intelligence briefing, and they just came back pissed. I don't see the point.
Yeah, and just kind of hearing about all this. Actually, we were working in the same room,
Oh,
and
yeah,
like you were on the other side of the room.
very different squadrons, but
Yeah,
somehow we worked in the same room for about a year.
yeah, it was really cool.
It was weird navigating that though.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a little
Like,
dicey.
don't look at her. Just go to the bathroom, come back, do your work.
Yeah, that might have to be a whole separate episode about like the dynamic between like being in close proximity to your spouse who is of an entirely different rank. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was kind of shitty. And then, we got orders to Colorado, and then we both wanted some stability. It was time for a change, especially for you, Delta, because you just had a rough go in the military.
Yeah, but I loved like learning what I learned. I loved doing parts of my job. I loved the few people that actually wanted camaraderie. Because at least in our career field, that's not really a thing. It's, hey, how you doing? Then go home. But oh yeah, I mean, I have made a few lasting friends that will never leave my life. But I was always terrified that one of us was going to be deployed or, moved or whatever, because at the end of the day, they don't have to honor that piece of paper that says you get to stay together. It's up to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like joint spouse does not apply to deployments.
No, it
They're,
doesn't.
they're under very rare circumstances. Spouses have deployed together, just happenstance. And some people actually do have. And here's the thing: unfortunately, with the military, um, you can rig the game if you know key people. So, and I think one of your former flight commanders, weren't you saying like she got herself at a deployment that her husband was tasked on because she happened to know someone?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of, I mean, good for them.
Being enlisted
but
and her being an officer, we don't get that opportunity.
yeah, so I mean,
They actively keep that from happening.
yeah, like good for them for having that experience to be
Yeah.
deployed together.
Yeah,
I would have
absolutely.
loved,
Can't be mad at them for it.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
I would have loved to have that with you.
Absolutely.
And who knows what happens in the future. But yeah, like joint spouse, military, like that doesn't apply to deployments, which kind of sucks. But I get it. I totally get it. I forgot where I was going with that.
I don't know, but it's about time to start wrapping up for this one.
Yeah.
But I mean, for those of you who hear this story and think, "Oh, you didn't deploy, you weren't actually in the military," or that makes sense of the Air Force. Good for you. You got to do what you wanted to do. Like we decided, and sometimes we're forced to sacrifice the things that we wanted. But even with all of it together, I would join again. I mean, I would choose to have this same career field again if it meant being in the same city as you.
I remember what I forgot earlier.
Oh, okay.
No, it had to do with one of the reasons why we decided to get out. Delta was saying like he was worried about this looming like what if, I get deployed because there was a much higher chance that I would get deployed in my career field than Delta. And I thought I it's as much I have had a pretty positive experience in the military. Um but I did want to have a break, like mentally and emotionally, because that's got to be draining on you.
Yeah.
To have that like looming cloud over you, like that doom and gloom, and and I just didn't want
Yeah,
to do that.
my therapist was kind of recommending maybe it's time to think about something different because this is wearing on you.
And I think a
And
lot of couples
well, every
don't think about that.
no,
Like sometimes even if you love your job, if it's weighing on your partner and on your family, you might want to think about maybe getting out. And you don't have to get out permanently. There's always reserves, there's always guard.
you're a partnership. You lost the ability to think autonomously, solely autonomously, when you said "I do," and it was a choice,
Exactly.
and it's a
Yep.
choice I will keep making, and hopefully you would make again.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Even though
I don't have
I've
any
been an
regrets.
asshole, I've made mistakes, I've been an idiot.
No, I mean honestly, this journey, as tough as it is, and there's something about pain. Pain is just pain, but it's what you do with the pain that can really make you and mold you into a much stronger person. Or you can choose to be a much weaker person.
Pain is kind of like swordsmithing. You can be the strongest piece of steel in the bunch, and you can try and hold out through pain, hold out through pain, hold out through pain, and break. Or you could, have a weak point that you don't know about, like I did, and break. The great thing with forging a sword of any sort, or any blade, is you can start over.
Yeah.
And you can either let it break you, or you can let it forge you. And the forging part is still pain. Sometimes it's discipline, choosing that pain. Sometimes it's something that happens to us and we don't have a choice. Sometimes it's, I don't know, our own stupidity. But whatever happens, you always have a choice on how to deal with it. For the longest time, I chose to let it break me. And before that, I didn't know I was breaking. Some people, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And figuring out what you don't know is probably the biggest step to learning ever.
Do I have regrets on how I handled certain things, how I approached you? I wish I would have approached you, or approached you, not reproach. When you were crying out for help. I do regret those moments. However, you can't change the past, and it has made me, I think it's made us stronger people, and I think it's definitely helped me become a better leader. Just a more of a compassion advocate for my people.
Yeah. And I will always regret that we didn't, either of us, but especially you, didn't get to deploy. That was me. Whether or not you directly blame me for it, I do.
I don't. I did,
Oh, I know. You told
but
me.
and I had to go on my journey, and gosh, it's complicated. It's complicated, but I don't blame you. I don't even I'm okay if I never go on a deployment. I'm okay if I never get to go to the Middle East. I would love to go to the Middle East, specifically Afghanistan. I don't know what the future is for that right now because it's a shithole right now and my heart breaks for those people. But if it never happens, that's okay. There are still other things that I can accomplish and get after that are still just as satisfying. So it's all good.
I'll just figure out my non-badass life, how to
Oh,
get
come
through it now.
on. Come on. You are in your phase of you're kind of grieving because of your medical issues right now and your limitations. But
Oh, yeah, you also get fucked up. Even if you don't do much in the military, it can still fuck you up.
well, for you specifically, you went from a very active lifestyle to a office lifestyle. And that was kind of hard on your body,
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of weird to like
it is
think
weird.
about.
But I mean, also with the way the Air Force chooses to train people is, go to nights, do your 12 to 15-hour shifts at a desk if that's your job. Don't worry about PT. Don't worry about all that. Don't worry about eating right. Just eat. Just eat so you can stay at your desk. Sleep so you can come back. Oh, it's your PT test time? Okay. You have 3 weeks to be able to run a mile and a half. And that's not good for your body either.
No, and that's
You
that.
should
Gosh,
also- yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
They should reform that to like the army. I would have loved to do what the army does. Which is
Yeah.
mandatory PT
Same.
every day.
Same. Yeah. I would have loved it. I don't care if I'm waking up, meeting up at formation 4 or
Get
5
used
o'clock in
to
the
it.
morning. Yeah, like and that's the thing I was kind of disappointed about coming into the Air Force active duty side was at least where we were. Granted, it's career field specific. I recognize that there are other career fields in the Air Force that do have a lot of rich history and tradition, but where we were at, there was none, essentially. And it sucked because I'm like, I joined the military to rough,
camaraderie,
yeah,
tradition.
Jodies and wrecking and
Those are not Jodies.
well,
Jodies are a bad thing.
I know, but
Only the Air Force. Only the Air. Even
okay, all right.
even Coast Guard doesn't call them that. They know better. It's
Marching and all that stuff, and it's just
cadences.
cadence. Yes, yes. Well,
I think my only regret
Potato,
was
potato.
actually being in the Air Force.
yeah.
rather than
However,
which that's another episode.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of our own personal beliefs of how we want it to live.
yeah, for sure. Because we're weird, and we want to be badasses.
We want
so
explosions.
we do, and we will. Damn it. But for you, Delta, like I know you're kind of like pissed off with like where you're at medically and like health wise, but you can still have a badass life.
I know. It's just
You're in your grieving phase right now,
sure.
just like I was with my dreams. But then I found the spark, the fire, where I turned the spark into a fire, and
Yeah, and I'm
you'll
not
find yours too.
solely grieving. I do like what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It's just I hate who I'm doing it with.
Yeah, and that's growing pains, unfortunately.
Yeah, I decided to go back to school, use the GI Bill, might as well get paid to do it, for cinematography, because, I mean, I like this YouTube stuff, I like video, and as a main or side gig, I want to follow people around the mountains with a camera, jump out of planes, follow people, so if you guys
And
want
that is badass.
if anybody out there wants a cameraman to jump out of a plane with them, because no one else will, let me know. I'm not expensive, because I don't know a lot.
Well, gosh. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We have more to share, some fun stories and some other stories. Not so fun, but yeah. That's us coming out of the closet and just being,
I guess for our next
Trust.
military episode, we could cover kind of or I guess we sort of planned on covering just what we expected and what we actually got.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Because, holy crap.
Excuse me. Sorry.
We both, I mean, I don't know about you, but I grew up fighting. I grew up in martial arts as kickboxer for years through college, and my early mid-20s. And then, through violent assaults and stuff, just always, I always talk about that, I know, I'm sorry, but always wanted to protect people from that. What better way?
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
I feel the same. Didn't have that experience as childhood. I just naturally had a...
and I always did anyways,
yeah.
but that just sort of magnified it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's interesting how childhood kind of shapes who we are. It's kind of like the catalyst.
I mean, it has to.
Yeah.
You have to figure out yourself some way.
For sure.
So
on that note,
until next time, guys, we get handed different hands in life at different points in times in our life, and we just kind of have to keep going. And if you need help doing that, or if you're looking for a community to help you do that, join the crew. And if you're new to watching this, subscribe, like it if you did. If you didn't, don't. But for those of you who are actually watching, thank you. And find something that brings out your passion, that brings out the you that you miss. For us, that's adventure, that's overlanding, that's exploration.
trying new things.
Yeah, and never, ever stop adventuring, because adventure is healing.
Bye, guys.